So, good evening. Today is the 6-year mark since the Lord revealed Himself to me, and I must say that I had a great day, an astonishingly good day. And the dream, as I told you, Jesus told me that I would have to be patient. And like a week ago or 10 days ago, something like that, I had a dream which began as a prayer, then it became like a vision. And he talked to me and he told me that a time of blessings would come. And today God gave me a new weapon which is very powerful against my health issues, which is basically very few people know about that, and it helps me immensely. So there again you have the synchronicity, and this has been happening to me even before Jesus came to me. Supernatural things happened because of my meditation, hypnosis, visualization, and then I also was involved in the occult, and I wanted to talk about this a little bit just because I have the time now. And I wanted to first talk about one thing that I showed you in a video where I talked about the Holy Grail and what it is. And I made a drawing, and I think I forgot to tell you something about that, which made it very difficult to understand what I'm talking about, which I noticed when I watched the video later. So I showed you this drawing, and this basically this circle here is the aura around a person, and this inside the circle should be a hedge maze. So I didn't draw it very well. It should represent a hedge maze because so I told you that there are whole books of these drawings, and there are different kinds of hedge mazes, and the Holy Grail is one of these. It's an archetype, and every soul body basically is like a hedge maze. So the energy which goes through the soul during your lifetime has to go through the hedge maze and find its way through the hedge maze, and the Holy Grail archetype hedge maze is not like this very complicated one. It's very much less difficult. It's like a hedge maze that's basically where the energy goes in through the head, and it dissipates not everywhere around or downward, but through an opening here, and it gives out the ram's horn, which represents love energy. So you could make the assumption that Jesus Christ was the human being who had this kind of soul. And there are whole books as thick as this one, just with these drawings in it. And I think I didn't make that very clear. So basically, usually during your lifetime, the energy that comes from at the top of the head into your body goes in very complicated ways, and over your lifetime you dissipate all the energy until you have no more energy, and that's then the end of your life. And Jesus Christ had basically, like, he had the opening, like you could say, for example, at the heart chakra, and the energy that went into him went directly outward as the love spiral. And the love spiral, the spirals, this kind of spiral is called the ram's horn, because when you, for example, when you use a magic wand, let's say this is the magic wand, and you do positive magic, you use it clockwise, like 12 times, for example, is a magical number. So you for example, you make a ritual, you have the magic wand, and then you call on the energy of what, like a thought form. You visualize it, it gets thicker and thicker and thicker, and then you manifest it by using your magic wand and making 12 circles clockwise around it, and then you open up the circle and it goes out into the world. These are very subtle energies, and most people don't even can even feel them. For example, and if you make like negative magic, you draw a circle anti-clockwise, which you can also use to bind something, like, for example, a thought form or an archetype into an object by using the magic wand in that way. And if you see the celebrities on television, often they have many rings, mostly silver and gold. Mostly they have, if they have learned the wrong Kabbalah with the trees switched, they have the silver rings, dirty fingers, the silver rings on the left hand, the gold rings on the right hand, because they learned the wrong Kabbalah. That would be, for example, all Freemasons, especially those in the lower grades, maybe. So, like the 33rd degree Freemasons know that in the Kabbalah, in reality, so all books on the Kabbalah are wrong. And I have something here that I can show you now. So there should be a picture, if it works. of the Kabbalah, and I hope you can see it. So on top you have Kether, then on the right you have Bina, on the left you have Hokmah, and Bina means understanding or knowledge, Hokmah means wisdom, and that's the female pillar. And basically usually there is a man standing, because it's the soul of a man. So in the middle of it usually you see a man standing facing at you. Where was I? I think this was it. Anyway, so you have the left pillar here, and the left pillar is on the right side of the body, and the right pillar with Hokmah and so on is I don't know them from memory. I would have to read up again, but so this is the pillar of mercy. This is the pillar of severity on the left side and the pillar of mercy on the right side. And I told you that the last book that had the real Kabbalah was from a Christian nutcase who formerly was the head of the Golden Dawn, a head of the Golden Dawn. And this is his book, The Holy Kabbalah, from A.E. Waits. And there you see Bina is on the left side, that's the pillar of mercy, female, and the pillar of severity, which is male, is on the right side. I don't know if you can see that. I'm not sure, because it reflects. So basically since 100 years, and I had the book from, I think, Dion Fortune. There was also Elizabeth Clare Prophet, who is a false prophet. And they all wrote books on the Kabbalah. There are now there are basically thousands of books on Kabbalah, and they all have the pillars switched, which means if you practice it, you're using the backside of the tree of life, which is also called the Qlipphot, or the tree of death. And the Kabbalah is very important in Goetic magic, and it's the basis of Freemasonic mysticism, and also of all the occult groups that were inspired by Crowley, or that were founded by Crowley, like the OTO, the Argentum Astrum, and there are others. So there are many occult groups. I'm not going to go into all of them, like the Temple of Set, the Church of Satan, which is basically just a joke. It's just a secular version of Satanism, and it's basically, he said that it's a form of psychology and so on, but if you ever tried to do a voodoo ritual, it works absolutely, or any other ritual. Just even if you just do meditation and you wish someone to be hurt, even if you really don't know what you're doing. If you do meditation every day for half an hour and you visualize that something bad happens to someone, if you do that for 3 or like 6 months, something bad is going to happen to him. And no court in the world is able to hold you accountable for that, because magic does not exist. So that was about the Grail and Crowley and the Kabbalah. Yeah, and then I wanted to show you also all these celebrities are involved in this stuff. There is the Rolling Stones album cover. I think the album is called In Her Majesty's Satanic Service. Pretty subtle, huh? Then there's Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the album cover, and you see in the in the left, in the back, there is Aleister Crowley, who called himself the Master Therion, which means the Great Beast, and he even I think he even signed with 666 or the Great Beast. That's the guy that they idolize. So anyway, so there's an old book about I think that's like from, I don't know, 80s, early 80s, in German. It's about hypnosis, and it's also secular. So basically what they are saying here is that it's just a psychological phenomenon, nothing more. That's the whole purpose of the book. Then I seriously found what I thought was already gone, which is this here, Silva Mind Control. And before Jesus came to me, maybe even shortly after, I was still involved in Silva Mind Control, because they make basically, I don't know if Jose Silva himself believed that this is just conditioning yourself for success and so on, or if he was maybe a Mason, whatever. But this book is from 1957, I think, or 52, and in the 1950s, Jose Silva found out that you can, if you can use frequencies to put yourself into different brain states. One of the frequencies would be from 4 to 7 hertz, which it could be, there's even something deeper like 3 hertz, which is called delta. Then from 4 to 7 hertz, excuse me, from 4 to 7 hertz is theta, which is deep hypnosis. And from like 8 to 14 hertz, I think, is alpha, which is where you start at, and it's a step-by-step tutorial to do that. And basically it's irrelevant what or which system you use, you just have to stick to the system. The more you do it, the more powerful it becomes. So for example, he always uses the same hypnotic induction, which is saying loud and visualizing the numbers in your head, and you visualize the number 3 times and saying them loud. Then you visualize the number 2 3 times, and then you visualize the number 1 3 times, and at the third time when you say 1, you then it's mostly audio tapes, or it used to be, it's also on YouTube, and then it says you are now in an alpha state of mind, or you are now in a theta state of mind, which is even more powerful because you're in deeper hypnosis. So in a theta state of mind, you could, for example, do things like you know, your eyes are closed, you're in a relaxed position, and automatically your hands go like this. At least for me. And these mudras, which the Hindus call mudras, these are the thumb is the fire element, and the 4 fingers are different, like you could call it acupuncture points, but in reality you are closing a circuit, an electrical circuit. This, for example, would activate wind, which is the intellect. This would activate what do they call it? Akasha, or ether, you know, the spiritual realm. This would activate the earth energy. This would activate water energy, which is emotion, and the opposite of that is this. When you do this, instead of this, you let go of that element. So you let go of wind or intellect element, so you get your head clear by doing this. You're pressing with your thumb down so that it touches your palm, and then that lets go of the wind element, which represents the intellect. When you do this with the middle finger, press it down, you let go of ether or akasha, which is the spiritual element. If you do this, you let go of earth. If you do this, you let go of emotion, or also called water. And even Jesus, when he talks about water, he's talking, in my opinion, often about the emotions. So I give you living water. And so basically, which is, anyway, so the Silva Mind Control method, and they are still doing that, and they are still having like hundreds of thousands of graduates, and instructors. You can learn to be an instructor in Silva Mind Control, and you could do things, for example, like you go into theta or alpha and you visualize you're now standing in a forest and there's a small path and it goes uphill, but it's not strenuous, and you see a house, and it's a beautiful house, and you enter that house, and in the house it's very warm, and there's a swimming pool in the house, and there's fresh clothes for you, and and the swimming pool has crystal clear water, and you lay off your clothes, and this is a healing pool, and you enter into this pool, and immediately when you touch the water you feel all the pain going away, and you feel your body healing, and so on. So that's basically visualization with the Silva method, and you always begin with 3 3 3 2 2 2 1 1 1. I am now in an alpha state of mind, and at the end of every meditation you say every day, in every way, my life is getting better, better and better. In the old book, this is the old book from the 50s, they still write, you say, my life is getting better and better, but they changed it to better, better and better because of the law of 3, because the number 3 is extremely powerful in magic. So this is magic in the disguise of science, like what Anton LaVey did, and he fooled a lot of people, and he himself, and that's known, was a theistic Satanist. So he believed in a literal being that is called Satan, and he worshipped him. So you see the deception in that. This has also been basically laid out 100 years ago in the secret doctrine and in the externalization of the hierarchy, and which is the externalization of the occult into mainstream society, very, very, very slowly over many, many, many generations. And in my opinion, we are like a generation away from where this is completely normalized. And if you look at what children are watching on television, it's mostly about like magical beings with magical powers, who can fly and and so on. So that's what I wanted to talk about, and there's also the story of one of the guys who was in I know that sounds strange, but there is a so-called super soldier program which James Casbolt would be a famous guy who talked about it, and Max Spears talked about it, Duncan O'Finian talked about it, and they tried to increase or make soldiers who are, for example, like assassins, which would be delta programming, or drug mules. So these people are like in a hypnotic state. They are, so that's like incorporated. And as far as I know, Michael Aquino, who is was the high priest of the Temple of Set, made Satanism into a fully recognized religion in the US Army, and this guy is something else. And he was a friend of LaVey, and the Church of Satan was not evil enough for him, so he founded the Temple of Set, which has a Council of 9, which are his. He is a very high, elite, decorated lieutenant colonel in the Army, US Army, and there are interviews with him, very few, but there are, one of which is on my channel. And he looks a little bit like Eddie Munster. Eddie Munster. He has this his eyebrows twirled upwards, and and his wife's name is what's his wife's name? Jezebel or something like that. I don't know. So like the name of a biblical demon, but it's not Jezebel. It's something like that. Anyway, so these are the people the Bible talks about when in Ephesians 6, when it says spiritual wickedness in high places. And like if you ever heard the stories about what Hillary Clinton was involved in, it's supposedly they found a video on Anthony Weiner's laptop where she and her assistant Huma Abedin did some sort of satanic ritual, and I'm definitely not going to say what it's about because it's so gruesome. And supposedly all the cops who watched the video, which some of them puked because it was so disgusting, they all had like car accidents. But that's just, I'm not saying that I can't prove that or something. I'm just saying this happened shortly after the WikiLeaks thing, where in the Podesta emails she wrote that I'm going to sacrifice a chicken to Moloch and things like that, and that's not even the worst. So there's all the, I think it was 10,000 emails. That was what Donald Trump talked about, and I read a few of them, and it's not a conspiracy theory. They are talking about will there be chickens, and is it possible to get a pizza for an hour? or and so on. So, and these code words are listed or were listed, I don't know if they still are, on the FBI's website as code words for pedophiles. Chicken, hot dog, and you know, who needs a pizza for an hour? You know, either you eat it or doesn't make any sense. Obviously, these were code words. So, I mean, and then they made this basically psychological warfare thing, where they sent some guy with a rifle to this pizza place, and he shot one round into the computer. What a coincidence! So that the computer was completely destroyed. Why didn't you shoot his whole magazine? He had an AR-15 or something. And then the news were full of, for weeks or months, with a crazy guy heard a conspiracy theory, and he thought that Hillary Clinton is running a pedophile ring from a pizzeria, and he took a weapon and he shot into this pizza place, and this poor man who works there, James Alefantis, which sounds a lot like J'aime les enfants, which is French for I like children. So yeah, but that's just conspiracy theories. Anyway, what's not a conspiracy theory is the book by Springmeier, and I wanted to read a little bit about it because it's very long, and I wanted to so it's called The Illuminati Formula to Create an Undetectable Total Mind Control Slave, and I'm going to read the introduction or dedication and like a part of one chapter. So, by Fritz Springmeier and Cisco Wheeler. Dedication. This book is dedicated to the millions of Americans and counting who have been programmed with monarch-type, trauma-based mind control. This book is written to destroy trauma-based mind control before it destroys the human race. It's time for this horrendous secret to end. It is also written as part of God's end-time work to propel people of faith to the high calling that is prophesied of the body, but cannot be attained without men of faith understanding these things. Humanity's great prophet said he came to heal those whose hearts had been broken, literally split and crushed, and to free those who are captives. That work needs to go forward. Blood, sweat, and tears are associated with this book. The blood of the innocent victims of this mind control cries out in a single unison, along with the pungent sweat of those who have tried to minister help to the shattered humanity left by the sadistic programmers, and the pool of tears shed as this book was written. How long, O Lord, holy and true, do you not judge and avenge our blood on earth? Warning, read this first before reading the book. If there is any chance you, the reader, have had mind control done to you, you must consider the following book to be dangerous. If you are consulting a therapist for MPD or DID, which is multiple personality disorder, it is recommended that you consult your therapist first before reading this book. The complications that could result for those under mind control learning the truth could be fatal. The co-authors take no responsibility for those who read or misuse this information. The reader's mind is like a garden or like a hedge maze. It may not be time to plant the truth in your mind. Perhaps you need some weeding or ground preparation before the garden of your mind is ready. Perhaps the weather is too stormy to plant the truth. Pray to the Lord of the harvest. The blessings that flow from planting the information of this book in your mind will require the presence of living waters of love. If you do not have love in your heart, this book is not for you. The information contained in this book is the biggest news story of the 20th century and still the biggest secret. It will challenge you, shock you, horrify you, and hopefully motivate you to redouble your efforts to humble yourself and seek strength from God, the Almighty. The programming procedures which are described in this book are based on research and consultation with deprogrammers, ex-programmers, therapists, counselors, and pertinent literature. To the best of our knowledge, the statements made in this book are factual, although they may not reflect the latest or currently accepted methodology among each and every faction of the NWO, which carries out monarch-type programming. So I'll stop there with the dedication. So the chapters are: Chapter 1, Selection and Preparation of the Victim. A. Genetics and dissociative abilities. B. Availability. C. Physical and mental requirements. D. List of organizations carrying out programming. E. 4 foundational steps for programming. F. Spiritual requirement. Moonchild ceremonies. Traumatization in vitro. G. Trauma by premature birth. H. Love bombing and love bonding. I. Severing the core of the mind. J. Further considerations. Chapter 2. The traumatization and torture of the victim. A. A site for torture of children. NOTS China Lake. What trauma does. The creation of PTSD and DID. C. How the torture is carried out and types of trauma. D. How MPD works. E. The core. Anchoring. The use of drugs, Chapter 3. A list of drugs used, a brief history of use. C. Applications for drugs to control. Chapter 4. The use of hypnosis. Dissociation trance and its historical use. How to program with hypnosis. How to boost creativity with hypnosis. How to keep the mind dissociative. Keeping the mind in a programming state. Hypnotic triggers. Hypnosis in programs. Chapter 4. Hypnosis. And it goes on and on and on. Scarring the brainstem, split brain work, medical technologies, the use of body programs, observing a satanic family conditioning their children, behavior modification and obedience training, spiritual control techniques, possession, trance, using spiritual principles against a person, how the monarch program miniaturizes what is done on a large scale, C. Dehumanization, D. Fear, E. The use of guilt, shame and ridicule, F. Teaching that the master is God, G. Portals and focal points, and so on and so on and so on. Teaching occult philosophies. Anyway, I think I'm going to read something from about hypnosis. So, okay. Chapter 4b, Hypnosis. The basics of hypnosis. I'll skip over that. How to program with hypnosis. Skip over that. D. F. Hypnotic codes, cues and triggers. When a programmer creates something, it will be a reflection of himself to some degree, just like handwriting and art are a reflection of the person who makes them. Understanding the connections between a programmer and his creation could take a book in itself. The following is extracted from the history of an ancient occult sect, still functioning today. It is the type of thing that the programmers feed their minds on, which in turn provides them the patterns which show up in programming. In the ancient occult world, at the gates of palaces, the doorkeeper had to be shown the seals, the secret names of God, or pictures with magical power, and the words are Akiva. When the person passed the entrance, he comes to the palace of pure marble stones. Do not say water, water, then the person will enter into the world, or the celestial garden of Eden, or the realm of the heavenly places. The story of Sinbad, the golden lamp, and genie would be another example of an occult story that could be used to program. Within the Illuminati, Gematria, which is numerology, which is the Kabbalistic teachings about numbers, is very important for knowing the codes of the deep altars. There are several reasons for why monarch slaves have lots of codes and structures which come from witchcraft. Their programmers are witches, and witchcraft is the worldview on the mind of the programmer. The slaves are reminded of their entrapment to Satan and their cult whenever they hear their codes. The altars internally will work magic even while they don't hold the body, and placing magical structures inside facilitates this internal magic. Using magical words makes the programming look like magic. The internal altars are being inculcated into occult, underworld life and doctrine. A rather remarkable book is Aleister Crowley's book 777. It is remarkable for the deprogrammer to understand many of the programming code links that the programmers may have used. In 777's foreword, Aleister Crowley wrote, 777 is a Kabbalistic dictionary of ceremonial magic, Oriental mysticism, comparative religion and symbology. It is also a handbook for ceremonial invocation and for checking the validity of dreams and visions. It is indispensable to those who wish to correlate these apparently diverse studies. Later he writes, the book 777 has for its primary objective the construction of a magical alphabet. For instance, Crowley gives the officers in the Masonic lodges and the Hebrew passwords of the grades. And then he's talking about the Mothers of Darkness, the Supreme Master Altars, the Kabbalistic Tree of Life, Bilar, Bilair, and Bilit, which are Kabbalistic names. So I'm going to stop there. The book is very long, and this guy, Fritz Springmeier, he was a deprogrammer. He helped people get out, and he also was a Christian pastor. And as far as I know, so was his father. So he was a real Christian. So, and now get this, he is in prison for trying to rob a gas station with a weapon. Now explain to me which pastor would do such a thing. Isn't that pretty obvious that he was framed? But of course that's also just a conspiracy theory. There's even something about the Qlipphot. He writes there. The Michael Aquino's wife is called Lilith because the word is there. So I'm just reading this last paragraph. The blood of this firstborn is spiritually placed in a box under the tree of life, which is the Kabbalah. This is in accord with the Lilith story. The spirit Lilith will work with the spirits of Serodiath and Lucifer. There are several trees which can be placed within a monarch slave, including the ash, the oak, the Yggdrasil, which is Norse magic as far as I know, the willow, which is druidic magic, and the tree of evil, which is the Qlipphot. And it says here, the tree of evil, which is an evil counterpart to the tree of life. Exactly, that's basically the mirror image of the tree of life. And also in the Kabbalah, which looks like there are the Sphira or the Sephirot, which means emanation, and it's an emanation from God. So, for example, the Sphira Hot, which is on the left side of the body, at the hip, means majesty, or being majestic. It's majestic, and these are attributes of God. And by inverting the tree, you have the opposite, and that's a science, and that's not just some gobbledygook. That's a science. And I think that you could study Kabbalism for your whole life and still don't really understand all of it. So And in Judaism, to learn the Kabbalah, there you have to fulfill several things. As far as I know, you have to be older than 40, you have to be married, and you have to be a rabbi. And usually this knowledge was given from mouth to ear, as far as I know. That's how sacred and holy this knowledge is to the Jews. And now it's the foundation of every occult organization. So that's just to emphasize again that this is not some fever dream. I have researched that for, I don't know, like 15 years. This is not misinformation or disinformation. This is done to people, this is done to celebrities, and they become slaves, literally. They, like Katy Perry said, they often say it in a way that sounds jokingly, but nearly all famous celebrities, including Bob Dylan, said something to the extent of, "And then I sold my soul to the devil." Katy Perry said that. Bob Dylan said it. I even have a picture here of David Bowie, where he is wearing his Kabbalistic magical robe. If I can find it, that is. Oh yeah, there it is. So there is this is David Bowie in his Kabbalistic robe, and he made an interview where he said during his time in the 70s, this was one of the worst times in his life because of the Kabbalism that he was involved in. And how did he say it? And he said, and just the Crowleyism of this time. That's what he says. It was the worst time of my life because of just the Crowleyism of the time. And I'm so glad that that's over. So something like that. That's what he said in an interview. And one could assume that most celebrities may be involved in that, or or at least a lot of them. And if you see them with their red armbands, that's like Ashton Kutcher, Madonna, and so on. That's first off, it's a sign that they are Kabbalists. Secondly, it proves that they are using the wrong Kabbalah. Because you should wear it on the left arm to ward off evil spirits. And the left arm is, as I said, female. The left side is female, right side is male. The left side is taking in, the right side is giving out. That's why even if you are left-handed, you have to use your magic wand with the right hand because it gives off energy. And I am left-handed. So anyway, I wanted to just talk a little bit about this stuff, because basically I can't talk about this to anyone because people would think I'm completely nuts. But I know that there are people out there who know exactly what I'm talking about, and that this has to stop, and that this has to be blown wide open, and that people have to begin to talk about this stuff. I mean, that's a crime against humanity what they're doing. And it's not just like a handful of persons that happens to. Supposedly huge amounts of children are like swallowed up and vanish into thin air. According to one FBI guy, the number is like about 80,000 children are missing every year. Some of them are found, but many are not, and you never hear about that in the news. And many and if you look at the statistics, there are 8 high holidays in witchcraft, one of which is Halloween, or Samhain, I think they call it also. That's why the son of Sam called himself the son of Sam, because it's Samhain, which is also a spirit, like Lilith. And if you look at the statistics of children disappearing, you can see most of them go missing around the time of Halloween or shortly before. So I wanted to end this now with Deuteronomy 18, where it says, "There shall not be found among you anyone that maketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire to Moloch." So obviously this has been a practice, and there's nothing new under the sun. Moloch is also represented by an owl. And if you know about Bohemian Grove, anyway, or that uses divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch, or a charmer, which is basically a hypnotist, I think, or a consulter with familiar spirits, which is very common in the New Age. They think that these are good spirits, and familiar spirits are spirits that follow you, follow a bloodline down, so they know everything about you, and they fool you. They pride themselves in how they can imitate people, voices, and so on. So if you go into a seance or something like that, they can appear as whatever they want. They can imitate the voice of Napoleon because they saw him, or they know another spirit that knows his voice. They pride themselves in their ability to fool people. That's about familiar spirits. Or a wizard, or a necromancer. A necromancer is someone who calls on the spirits of the dead, which is not possible. The dead don't know anything. The dead are not invocable. These are spirits pretending to be loved ones. Or a necromancer, for all that do these things are an abomination unto the Lord. And abomination in the Greek Bible is the most powerful word of disgust in the Greek language, according to Derek Prince. So these people are an abomination unto the Lord, and because of these abominations the Lord thy God doth drive them out before thee. Thou shalt be perfect with the Lord thy God. For these nations which thou shalt possess hearkened unto observers of times, unto diviners. But as for thee, the Lord thy God hath not suffered thee so to do. That's Deuteronomy chapter 18, the Old Testament. So, thank you for listening, and good evening.